All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is the adding LRS to your GIS demo theater. My name is Tom Brenneman. I work in the sales group in the transportation team. I focus on state departments of transportation. So I've been in most of them, probably 30 of them. That's not most of them. More than half of them, I should say. And looked at data for a lot of them. And what we're going to focus on here is using the Roads and Highways extension and those tools for working with linear reference data. That's really the focus. And I'm going to focus a lot on, just what those tools, kind of an introduction to those tools. So we're going to look at the event editor. We're going to look at what it's like to actually add linear referenced routes using Roads and Highways, and then just how that data can be used throughout the rest of the ArcGIS platform. Sound good? All right, fantastic. So what I want to start with, I've just got a little gallery here of different applications to illustrate different components of the Roads and Highways product. I'm going to start here with just a web map that I put together that shows lane information for the state of Indianapolis, or the state of Indiana, not the state of Indianapolis. That's not the state at all. And it's a simple map. It's kind of washed out there on the screen, but basically it's a map that allows me to click on a road anywhere and get the lane information for that section of road. So nothing rocket science here, but I think the important thing to understand is that this is a linear referencing event. And when I say a linear referencing event, I mean linear referencing is basically the applying a number line to your line work. So your roads turn into a measured line that then data can be layered on top of with these things called events. Now, outside of Roads and Highways, has everyone here worked with LRS events before? Have you done that before? Not in Roads and Highways, just in general. Okay, great. Have you done it in our core software? Just use an ArcMap? How many have done that? All right. So when you do that, those are just tables, right? Those events are just tables, and then you dynamically display them on the map, right? These are not tables. These are feature classes in Roads and Highways. And one of the reasons that you'll know that is by when I panned, it redrew, right? If this was dynamically drawing it from tables, when I did that, it would not redraw that fast, okay? So when Roads and Highways were storing these events as feature classes, and the nice thing about that is I can use them in apps like this and in any other app throughout the rest of the ArcGIS platform. We'd say that it featureizes your events. Well, how do you maintain those events in those feature classes? Well, Roads and Highways has a tool called the event editor, and this is what it looks like. This is the event editor. It allows you to maintain your event data within Roads and Highways, and it allows you to maintain these feature classes. You can still edit these event feature classes in ArcMap. So if you wanted to open up one of these feature classes and just type, just like you do now with the tables, the event tables that you do now, and you type in the route and measure in order to edit them, you could do the same thing inside of ArcMap. But we've created this web application called the event editor that makes some of those processes a lot easier. And they're kind of easy to the point that other folks in your organization might be able to do this. So let's go through a common workflow. Maybe I come in and I have a particular route that I want to do some work on. I might type in that route ID, search for it, and I get a hit. It's US 31 in just north of Indianapolis. So there's US 31. I typed in my route ID, and of course, if I do some portion of the route ID, it'll give me all the appropriate candidates, and then I can pick on the right one that I'm interested in. But maybe I don't know the route ID. Boy, our neighbor's volume is pretty loud too. That's kind of annoying. Well, all right, so where was I? I can search by other fields. So instead of just if I don't know the, maybe I don't know the route ID, I can just come in here and say, well, I know this is in Hamilton County, the county where I live, one of the best counties in the world. And I'm going to search on all fields. Again, Hamilton County, and I'm going to put in a route name of US 31, right? And it has some nice IntelliSense there, so it shows me all the available US 31. So I'm going to put in US 31, search for that, and then I find, okay, there's all of my options for US 31 inside of Hamilton County. And this is the one that I want, so I've highlighted it here in the map. If I want to just start editing data, I can click this button and start editing data. But before I do that, I'm going to turn on the lanes so that we can see those lane events here. So here's the lane events for Indiana. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start editing this particular route. So what this button does is, if it'll open for me, it's always opens slower when I have more people looking at the screen. It opens up this editor dialog for that section of the roadway. And the first thing it wants to know is, what portion of that roadway do you want to edit? And you can say, okay, I want to go from 0 to measure 5. And you can see here as I type in that measure, it shows me where that would be out on the road, and I'm good to go. Or I can come over here and I can just click. So if I want to say, oh, I want it to go just to right there, it'll tell me what the measure is at that particular location. But I'm just going to type in, I'm going to say that I have the appropriate measure. Notice that this edit is happening at a particular point in time. Everything in Roads and Highways is time aware. So you don't ever really delete anything. You simply, unless you want to, in most cases when you're adding and you're updating data, it's just overwriting it at a newer timestamp than the data that's already there. So let's say I want to edit this section of road. I'm going to edit the characteristics of that road, and I'll show you what this thing is here in a minute. And now I'm going to put in the data values for that. And in this case, I'm editing speed limit, direction, median, and lane information. Now, if I want to see what the data values currently are for that section of road, I can use this little eyedropper tool, and it'll pull in the attributes for that section of road. And then I can change them. So this is the route that I take to the airport. So I'd really like this to be 70 miles per hour. I've given this demonstration to Indiana DOT. They haven't gotten the hint yet, but that's the goal. And I might up the number of lanes to 3 lanes for that section of road. And that's pretty much how easy it is to edit this data. And one of the cool things about this, well, here, I'll save it, and you can see it update. There we go. It slightly changed color there. Hopefully you can see that. But that's all there is to editing that event data. Let me make another edit and show you a little bit more. So a lot of times people want to edit data not necessarily using the exact measures, but maybe an offset from some feature along the route, like a reference post, mile marker, or a street intersection or something like that. So I'm going to turn on my reference post. There we go. There's my reference post. And now, like I showed you before, I can click on one of these reference posts, but I'm not sure if I'm hitting it exactly right on. So there is an option to do an offset from any point in your map. And this doesn't even have to be an event. It's just any point, like a sign or something like that. And then I can come over here and click on that. And now my edit will go from measure 5 to the reference post for 131. Reference post 131 on that route. I can also do offset, so if I want to put in, this edit is going to go 1,000 feet south of that reference post. You can see it offsets it, and I can make it south or north, right? So whatever kind of control I want on where that edit occurs. Behind the scenes, Roads and Highways is going to take this information and convert it into a measure information at that location. Let me go to the next panel here. I want to show you a little bit more about this panel. First of all, this is a panel we call this an attribute set that's been configured for me. So you can have different configurations of these around your organization. And the interesting thing about these is if I turn on the layer names, you'll see that these are actually 3 separate feature classes. It's not just one feature class with all these attributes. So you could have lots of feature classes and edit them all simultaneously within this dialog, and still manage them as separate feature classes. So that web map that I had that was just showing lanes, all I had to do is add that lanes feature class to it, and I could show that particular data. There's a lot of efficiencies in doing it that way. For example, if my lanes don't change for the entire stretch of that road, I only have to store 1 record for that road in that event. If I were to merge all these together, and any attribute that changed would mean that I'd have to split the line, right? So this allows me to have a data model where these events are separate, but my editing interface just gives me a really nice single interface for entering information. This is also very configurable. So up here I clicked on characteristics earlier. I could change it over to classification, and you can see I get a completely different set of data values in a completely different set of feature classes. Well, I'll go ahead and stick with classification. I'll pull in the data values that are along there. Actually, I'll pull the ones in that I just did. And I'll just change the number of lanes. I'll keep it at 70 miles an hour. Maybe I'll put in a median for this section of road. This is a positive barrier. And there we go. So there I've made 2 edits to the events. I've updated 3 different feature classes in the process of making these edits. And it's currently up to date. The nice thing about this is, like I said, everything is time aware. I made these edits as of today. If I roll it back and see what it looked like yesterday, you'll see everything rolls back to that date. So all your edits go in with a particular effective date. And I chose the effective date of today, but I could have said, well, actually this was effective a month ago, or it could be effective a month in the future. That's up to you. It's not like a transactional date like editor tracking. It allows you to configure what that date is. Any questions on what I covered so far? I'm going to kind of switch gears into a different part of it. If you have any questions, I'll deal with those now. Okay. I did want to show you just real quick, these attribute sets, they're pretty awesome. There's a configuration dialog right here that allows you to create your own attribute sets. So I could say this is like Tom's edits. And I can just start dragging in things that I usually edit together. Maybe I do lanes, functional class. And when I save that, notice now there's Tom's edits up here. And if I go over here, that's the data that I'm going to edit. So it's configurable for me so that I can say, oh, I only edit these things, or I edit these things together most often. And I can put those in an attribute set. Maybe I have different collections of these. You can also control that at an organizational level, such that when I log in, I just see the data that I have access to, and I have attribute sets that are predefined for me. So I'm going to go to a different location. I'm going to find an address here and go to Graham Park, Westfield. There we go. There's my demo script, so you can see there. There's Graham Park, Westfield. This is where I spend a lot of my summers because both of my kids are into baseball and softball. So I'm very familiar with this section of Indiana. And one of the things you might notice here is that I've got a lot of data around in this area, but I don't have a road right here. This web editor is designed. It's designed to do. Is designed to edit events, not routes. So if we want to edit a route, what we can do here is we can submit a red line to the people who maintain the routes. So I can go in here and start clicking. Sometimes I'm clicking challenged. Here we go. Come on. There we go. And I'll digitize in where that road should be. Notice I've done a really horrible job of snapping. I'll come back to that. And I might put in whatever information I have for that particular road. I might not have any information other than I know its location. I am going to say that I would like them to create a route in this location. And maybe the effective date is the 1st of the month. I know that road went in on the 1st of the month. I don't know any of the other characteristics of it. I can also attach a file to this. So if I have, in this case, I've got a CAD file for this section of road. So I'm going to attach that to this red line, and I'm going to save that, and now that gets saved into the geodatabase. You can make this redlining edit here within the event editor. I can, because this is just a feature service, I can edit this on my phone in Collector, or I can edit it in a web map. I can edit it in ArcGIS Pro. All of those are options for editing these red lines. When I want to create a route at that location, that's when I need to come over to ArcMap. So now I'm switching roles in the organization, and now I'm not an event editor. I am I'm a route editor. And I'm going to look at this map, and of course, this is a demo, so I'm already zoomed into exactly the place where that red line occurred. But you could have just as easily opened up the red lines and seen what was submitted last and zoomed to that location. So I've got centerline county log. It's kind of hard to see some of this data, so let me. I'm going to switch my base maps here. There we go. That's a little bit easier to see the existing roadway, and I'm going to identify that red line that came in and kind of see what information was submitted on this. Okay, so they are suggesting that I create a route here. I see the user that was logged in. I know this guy. He's always causing problems. I don't know if I should actually do this, but I'll go ahead and look at this attachment. There's my zip file that was attached with that. I'm going to extract that out and just put it on my local system. So I'm going to put a d:temp. Extract. There we go. Now I've got the DGN file that was submitted with that red line, and I could come over here and see that DGN file, and I'm going to bring in the polyline from that DGN file. So if it's kind of hard to see, and I can make it orange and really big. But there's the geometry that came in from the CAD file. So I want to use that geometry because it looks really good, not the red line that was sketched in. I'm going to use that geometry, and I'm going to use that to make my edit. So I'm going to go ahead and just start editing. Edit features, start editing. And when I do that, notice I'm working with this Roads and Highways toolbar right here. So Roads and Highways gives you this extra toolbar for doing LRS-specific edits. And in this case, before I get started with this edit, I have to have a centerline. All routes in Roads and Highways are based off of a centerline. So I'm going to start by just copying the geometry of that CAD file and pasting it into my centerline. and I'm going to turn off that CAD file. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of that CAD file because now I've got the geometry that I want. Let me turn off that red line there in my center line. So there's my center line, but I don't have a route yet. So let's create a route. To do that, I choose my center line. A route could be made up of one or more center lines. So I could have a multi-part route with lots of center lines that are tied together. In this case, I just have one, but I could have lots of them. I could have lots of them in here. And then I'm going to choose my center line. There we go, I selected that. And I'm going to use the Create Route tool. Create Route pops up and asks me some information about it. First of all, it fills in the start date for me. And that came from the red line. So remember when I was editing, I added in that red line. I gave it an effective date. That's what we see here. And now I go through and define their route ID. In the case of Indiana, they have got a pretty complicated route identification system, but it's a multi-field route identifier. So it has all these different parts to it. And you go down and you can say, all right, this should be a city street, and this is in Hamilton County, and it's got a city code of 0191, RTEL. This is just putting in the data values that they usually put in for these, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a section code of 01. And all of those could be drop downs or lookups depending on what the rules are for your organization. In these cases, I'm just typing those in. If all that looks good, you can see it makes that concatenated route ID for me. And what most folks are doing before Roads and Highways is they know those rules for concatenation and they're just typing it in, right? But that dialog kind of makes it a little bit easier to allow you to type in each individual part. When I click OK to that, I get a calibrated route out of that. So it's taking the geometry for my center line, taking the information that I put in that dialog, and the end result, if I turn off my red line, is a calibrated route. If I click on that, you can see it's got measure information. It goes from 0 to 0.589 along that section of road. That looks good. I can save my edits, and I'll just stop editing. And there we go. That's the process for adding a route in Roads and Highways. There's a whole lot more to it. I mean, there's endpoints and calibration points that get added with our measurement information, but it's just that simple to add in your routes. Now, I'm going to switch roles back to being the person who maintains the events on the roadway, and I'm going to come back over here to the Roadway Characteristics editor. I'm going to change my base map because it's, again, hard to see that new road that just got created. That's a little bit easier, but I can see there now there's a route there where I wanted to attribute the information for that section of road. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit my linear events. I'm just going to click on that route, and I'll say this edit I'm going to do from the start to the end. Okay. And I'm going to put in, instead of Tom's edits, I'm going to do those characteristics. But then look at this. I can take all the information from this street. So maybe all the information for this route is exactly the same as this cross street. I can just pull that information in and click save, and I'm done. I don't have to type anything. So I can copy attributes from any other route that you're looking at. That's a pretty big time saver. And again, everything is time aware, so if I want to roll things back, if I roll them back to the first, notice the routes there. I should have really done I should have edited that. Well, let's fix it. I got a minute left. I'm going to fix that data. Notice that on the first, there's no lane information. I should have made the lanes effective as of the first. So if I wanted to fix that, I could go in. I'll switch this to the 8th. I would choose lanes. I could select it using a rectangle. Come on. There we go. There is the actual lane record that was entered. And if I want to, I don't know why that's popped up there. If I want to change this effective date, I can just go in here and type 3/1, and it'll update that effective date. There we go. And I can change any other data values in here. So you still have this kind of tabular editing experience if you want it when you're working with this data. If everything looks good, maybe my number of lanes in here actually should have been 2 for that section of road. I'll go ahead and save those edits. Nope. There we go. So that's how you do kind of a data correction. So tabular or that add data events or the add linear events, those are the different ways. You can see it change the color of it a little bit right there. So kind of bringing it back here. So that's kind of what the editing process looks like. You can do your event editing in the event editor, the web application, and then you do your route editing in ArcMap. That is being ported to Pro, I think, next year. So it is coming in Pro, but it's going to take a little bit to get it there, but I think you should see that next year. And then now if we go back over here to that map that we were looking at in the beginning, and I search for Graham Park. We zoom in here, we can see that data that we just created. So it's completely integrated with the rest of your GIS. There's no kind of ETL process or anything like that you have to do in order to make something like this web map work. It all is just built into ArcGIS. All right, that's all I have. I'll open it up for questions. We got a couple of minutes for questions. I know the next demo starts. You want to come up? You only got 3 minutes. Any questions? All right, well, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. I'll be up here. Again, Tom Brenneman. Let me know if you have any follow-ups. Thanks.